In this video, we're going to explore the cardinality or multiplicity of our object relationships in preparation for creating our database structure. So cardinality, multiplicities can be somewhat interchangeable. I guess multiplicities is the correct term if we're talking about our class diagram, which we're currently in. Cardinality is referred to more so in the ERD process. So whether you're doing the normalization process with your ERD or your class diagram, the same steps apply. The difference is just in the wording. They're two different systems. One sort of came before the other, so they use different terminologies. But when we're talking about multiplicities, or like I said, cardinality, what we're talking about is the type of relationship that we have between our objects. And essentially, when we talk about the type of relationships, we're referring to three main types. We have what we call a one-to-one relationship, a one-to-many relationship, and a many-to-many relationship. So what we mean by that is a one-to-one relationship just means that for each object, there's only one in each relationship. So for example, each school has one principal. Each principal is only in charge of one school. One-to-many is where one side can have many instances of the other object attached to it or related to it, but the other object only has one. So for example, each school has many students, but each student only has one school that they go to. Maybe we're the exception to that rule here with our school-based students that technically attend two different schools, but in saying that you have one base school. So we'll go with base school if that helps the terminology. And many-to-many is when we have a situation where both objects have many instances of the related object. So for example, each student studies many subjects and each subject is studied by many students. So those are the types of relationships. And when we're creating our data structures, so our database, obviously we're working with our objects here, what we want to try to create is a series of one-to-many relationships. All right, so if you have a one-to-one relationship, sometimes those objects do stand on their own, particularly because they often have different methods attached to them. However, sometimes we may want to just marry them together. So, if we're just worried about, say, the principal's name as part of the school, we could, in theory, put that as an attribute of the school rather than having the principal as their own object. So one-to-ones we can sometimes incorporate in to the other object. Many-to-many is the one where we do need to make some changes. When we have a many-to-many relationship, what we want to do is separate it into two one-to-many relationships by creating a separate object. And so the separate object just holds those instances of the two connections and creates a system where each of those combinations is in fact unique, as opposed to having it created. So when we look at our system, it'll probably make a bit more sense. But starting with the publisher and the book. So with the book and the publisher relationship, if we think about it, each book is only got one publisher, but each publisher can publish many books. If they're only publishing one book, they're probably not doing that well. So to signify that relationship, I'll just stretch it out, give it a little bit more room so it's a bit easier to read. So if we actually click on the relationship between publisher and book, you'll see in the properties section that there's some sections for end one and end two. And you'll notice one of the attributes or options there is n1.multiplicity. So this is where we can signify that multiplicity. So I always get this one wrong, so I'll just have a quick look. So I actually got this one right for once, which is rare. So N1 So what we're saying is each book has one publisher. So N1, so I guess because I drew it from publisher to book, N1 is the end where you've started, N2 is where you've finished. So each book has one publisher, and then each publisher has many books. So we'll put the asterisk there to represent many. So we've got a one-to-many relationship there. All right, so I guess if we have a look at the book and the order relationship, so I guess if we think about each book can be in many orders, because obviously we want to sell more than one copy of the book, and each order can have many books in it. So, a customer may want to order 10, 15 books. So this is an example of a many-to-many relationship. So again, we go N1. This one's easy because they're both the same, but many to many. So we've got the two asterisks there. All right, order and customer, if we think about each order is going to have one customer. Each customer may have many orders. All right, we do want the customer to come back and order some more. So just again, give myself a little bit more room. So this time the many is going to be at this end. So N1 should be the many. No, of course, I drew the line the wrong way around. So I'll just flip that around. So each order has one customer, and each customer can order many orders. All right, so we've identified the multiplicities of our relationships, but as we said, we've got this many-to-many situation. So basically what would happen here if we left the system as is every time we made an order, we'd have an order ID, let's say it's the first order, so order 1, and they might order the whole Harry Potter series. So we'd have to have order 1, the Sorcerer's Stone for this customer, one copy on this date. Order 1, we also need the Order of the Phoenix. I'm doing well to remember 2 of the names, if I'm being honest, for Harry Potter. But for the same customer, the same quantity, the same date. So you can start to see that the order ID, the dates, the customer email, that stuff is starting to duplicate unnecessarily, right? Because we want to order many of these different books within the same order. All right, and likewise, every time we created an order for a book, we'd have to go through and say, well, this book is this publisher, this title. All right, so it gets out of hand very quickly, having multiple bits of data that we don't necessarily need to store. So to do this, or how to handle this, I should say, is we simply just create a new object. And I'm just going to call it order book. It's not very interesting, but that's fine. If you can think of a better name for it, you're more than welcome to. But we're just going to add 2 attributes to this, and that is the order ID and the ISBN for the book. All right. So then what we can do is we can eliminate this relationship, and we can create a couple of new associations or relationships between order and book and order book. So then when we're looking at this, so each book will appear in this combination just the once. So which way did I draw it? That way. So it's probably actually N2. Yeah. So, actually, I just realized I just said each book. So each book can appear multiple times within the order and book. So this is basically capturing all of those different instances where the book is being ordered. But each order book instance only has one book attached to it. All right, and likewise with this, so each Actually, I think that one's around the wrong way too. So if I'll just stretch this out a bit more so we can see that relationship. It was the right way around. I just couldn't see it. So let's go back here. So I just flip this around. So for each order, it can appear multiple times within our order book combination, right? Because, if order one has 10 books, it'll be order one, this book, order one, second book, so on. But each order book instance only has one instance of the order attached. So we now have a system that is fully connected of one-to-many relationships, which now means that we are ready to create our database.